Hey everyone, it is Marva at Just Keep Living. Today I have the great privilege of talking with one of my wonderful friends that I met at Southside on the Mar since the Lord had us transition here to Dallas. And it is Carla Robertson from Dallas Designing Dreams, one of the co-founders of Dallas Designing Dreams. And Carla, would you give me the great pleasure to walk us into how did we begin our relationship?
Wow. That's been a few years ago, but just realizing this lady walked in to order something.
Yes.
And then she was told she could make it instead. And so I just watched her from time to time come in, didn't really get to know you. And then some kind of way we had struck up a conversation.
Right.
And you told me that I said that there's no excuses, just recovery. So that seemed to have a lasting impression on you.
It changed my life.
So yes.
It changed my life. And observing you, that is your role. You observe those that come in for a minute until the Spirit moves on you to interject.
Right.
Right. And then I think that you observe to see if people are going to approach you and include you in the engagement of the studio. So I've gotten a chance to learn and study you back, which was one of our focuses another time with another guest, is being a good student of friends.
Right.
That's how you develop a friendship. You become a student of the person, right? So in that journey, what you did say to me transformed me, because I told you that there's no mistakes, only recovery. That's what you said to me, because I was apprehensive of, my next step. For those that are listening in, you know I play in Dallas Designing Dreams. It's a artist incubator, if you will, with all kinds of expressions and introductions to mediums and technology and sewing and just creating things. And so that awakened in me that I was God's creation.
Yes.
And since I was created in His image, that I did have the capacity and ability to also create. And so I think not to put blame on anyone, but somehow my little girl self in my journey, young journey, was told I couldn't do something. Wow. And that forever stuck with me until you freed me.
That happens to a lot of people. They're told that they can't do something, or that it's not something that will make money, so they're dissuaded from even trying to explore their creative side.
Yeah. And I see you and Arthur Porter, Mr. Porter I call him, do that. You free people up, and healing happens in that space over and consistently.
Yes.
And I love the modesty and humility with which both of you operate. And so the introduction, I always invite people to come down to Dallas Designing Dreams in Dallas, Texas, in the building Southside on the Mar, because healing happens in this place. But you and Arthur are so consistent, and you're not a couple. We got to make that clear. They are separate entities and sovereign, moving their own sovereignness, but they work well compatibility-wise with the vision. What would you say is the vision of Dallas Designing Dreams? I know what I've experienced, but what is the call to action for you two?
When I took a look at that, what I came up with is that we're helping people invest in themselves and their dreams. And we're not just there for us to invest in them, but just to teach them how to invest in themselves.
Yeah. You say it, and that is consistent what you do. But there's distractions that come with human beings that walk through that door. So I will just continue to talk about me, just in general. But seeing labels that get attached to people, mine was, I can't do that. I've been told I'm an athlete. And that's what I told you. I don't make things. I play basketball. Other people come in that I've seen, a Vietnam vet, for instance, that was just accompanying his wife on a tutorial, learning how to make a purse. And then Mr. Porter invited this gentleman in to engage and sit down at the sewing machine. And then the systemic, the intentional way that both of you approach a person on just how to make this bag or this T-shirt or this. And your words of encouragement are so easy, but yet they're so healing.
Well, when people walk in the door, when we see them come in, the first thing we see is their reaction to coming into the space. So we don't actually know exactly why they're there, but we believe that God sent them and that this is the environment that they need in order to maybe if it's healing that they need, or
Right.
if it's to be released from something or feel freedom to create, when all this time they've been thinking, I can't do it, then we're there to say that you can.
Right.
And we're there to just open that door.
Right. And I've seen it with, like I said, the Vietnam vet, and then you work with other programs. So your programs are tailored for human beings,
Yes.
ages 18 months old up to 80-something years old. And women that have been trafficked, men that are possibly homeless and trying to make a way to forge a way out of that situation. Tell me, what's been most impactful for you in this journey with coming on in 2006? Is that when you came on board?
I came on in 2006 when it first opened.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are some impactful stories for you in you serving in that space?
One of the ones that comes to mind is Whitney Mitchell. Mm-hmm. She was a young lady, 19 years old, graduated from high school, and she suddenly developed sepsis, mm-hmm. and she lost both of her leg. Well, actually, she lost all 4 of her limbs, and she wanted to come in. She said she always wanted to be a designer. She wanted to sew, and so we were just able to show her how a machine operates, and then ask her, how could you make it work for you?
Right.
So she developed skills to actually use a sewing machine.
Right.
And then we took her to the next step. Okay, what about your own design? So then we took her into the studio, because before we couldn't get her into the studio, so we did it outside in the hallway. Mm-hmm. And then we came inside, and we were able to let her take her designs and then create patterns for her, and then she would sew them up. So just seeing someone who thought they could not because of what had happened to them.
Right. And that ministered to me. And
Yes.
I have utilized that story, which I call it the Whitney effect. A woman that had no arms, had no legs, and here I am, able-bodied, talking about what I can't do. Lord gave me ample arms and ample legs, but I captured in my mind. And so her without limbs, you freed her mind up to be able to create, bringing sports teams in, and I've done
Right,
that
yes.
there because coaches love it. Like, no, yes, you can. You can do it. It's the Whitney effect.
And her effect actually went all the way to Africa.
Now tell me
Because
about
I went to Kenya, and there was a tribe there that they were telling them, hey, Carla's an entrepreneur, maybe she can help you.
Right.
And they said, we're not entrepreneurs, that's the Maasai tribe, we don't make things.
Wow.
So then they asked me when I came back to send a video of our studio. And once we sent the Whitney effect back to them, they said they had no excuse for not
It removes all
doing
excuses.
it.
Be encouraged.
for not
Just
being
keep
able to do
living,
it.
family. Be encouraged.
So
yeah.
now they sent us pictures where they've made leather purses over there.
Wow.
So those kind of things happen, and you just never know where it's going to go. You're
Right.
thinking it's just in our studio, but that's on the other side of the
And
world.
I love that y'all are consistent with the vision, the mission, and the call and the purpose. We can go in so many directions, but one of me being a good student and a friend of you is watching your journey and your transformation. So we've invited everybody to come on in and experience Dallas Designing Dreams for yourself. But one thing that I've got to witness for you is like you've become half of a person in the
Exactly.
best way.
In the best way.
In the best way. Can you tell us about that journey, your weight loss journey, your transformation journey? Now it's a lifestyle. You wouldn't even partake with a little chocolate muffin with me this morning.
Well, back in 2021, I was invited to this process called the 40-day turn-up.
Okay.
And they were talking about losing a minimum of 10 pounds. And I thought, well, I don't have anything to lose, by being a part of it. And I asked the young lady who invited me what was the best thing that she loved about it. And she said she loved the spiritual part.
Okay.
And in my mind, I was thinking, who talks about weight loss and spirituality at the same time?
Right.
And so I joined it. And while I started at 221 pounds,
Right. And how tall are you?
I'm 5'2", which is not a good thing.
221 pounds, because there's people out there that
That
can
need to
relate
know.
and
Yes.
identify.
And I eventually went down to 142.
Wow.
But the promise at the beginning of the program is decide that you're never going to go back.
Okay.
And so we had to take a picture that said "Never Again."
Oh, okay.
And that's on my mind all the time, that I will never go back.
Wow.
To 221. So currently, not only did I go through the whole process in the 6 weeks, I went through the second part called the journey to address some spiritual issues, and then I was made a coach. And so I've been doing that since 2021, coaching other participants and also coaching other coaches on how to lead groups. And so I'm just enjoying this opportunity, not only for my own self,
Right.
but that it's transforming other people's lives.
It really is. And, you know, it is impactful who you hang around.
Yes, it is.
Who you hang around. So the spillover effect was that my mom, I told my
Yes.
mom about you. And I don't know if you were in the process of the journey then when we went up to Michigan to meet with another creative. Had you started the
I
journey
had not
then?
started. So
Right. So she had a visual of you. And then when I said, Carla's mom losing this weight with the 40-day turn up, my mom joined as well. My mom was in her 70s. I think she's 2 years into it. But one of the immediate benefits was that she got off of medication right away with the discipline of addressing so tell them what the discipline is right away if they were to get a.
well, the real discipline is understanding that the food is there for your health. It's not just to be like we just hoard food almost, but it's about knowing healthy boundaries for food, knowing what foods are good for keeping inflammation out of your body,
Right.
Understanding the role that exercise plays in your in your health journey, but also knowing that sometimes it's not food that's bothering you. Sometimes
Food
it's
didn't do
something
it.
else that's bothering you, but you use food as your medication.
All right.
And so Dr. Joe, who's the founder of this organization, his goal is to help people of color.
Right.
That's his main goal, is to help people
Don't
of
be
color
mad at him, but
get,
he's
get off
focused.
the medications, because we seem to be the ones who are the most unhealthy.
Right.
And we have all of these different diseases that some of them could be alleviated if we learned how to eat properly and do all the things that would help us get inflammation out of our bodies.
I'm sure there were a lot of aha moments. I didn't know this.
Right.
In your first 45 days, can you take us back to maybe 3 of those things? Like, I didn't know this about the food being replacing medicine. So that was one, but then some other things.
I personally was not on any medication.
Okay.
But I understood that I was headed toward hypertension or possibly even diabetes just because of what I was eating.
Right.
So that was an awakening moment, is that if you keep doing this, this is where you're headed.
Right.
One of the other things was I did not understand the role that food played in my own life, that, whether I was happy or sad,
Food was there.
that was there.
A
It was
companion.
like, we're having a good time, let's go eat.
Right.
I'm having a bad time, let's go eat.
Right.
So anything related to that, I was like using food as that medicine for me to say, hey, I feel good today. I'll go get
deserve
something.
some food.
And to understand that we don't know what a serving is.
Oh.
That was a really big moment for me, is that, oh, this is a serving, because because what we're served at restaurants, which is an overabundance of food.
Right. Welcome to America.
Because we're always taking plates home because it's too much food. So to understand that I can eat just enough that will fill me and that's good for my body.
So without having to carry a scale around with you, because you still fellowship with those
Yes.
that aren't fully baptized in that,
Right.
in that. We still celebrating with food and going to
Yes.
rest. And so you don't carry a scale, but you have tips and tricks to still keep you under control and managed. And so what's a portion, if you can do, what are the tools you use to stay in control but still fellowship with people? You still got to do life with folks that aren't.
I would say, if I'm looking at a plate,
Yes.
and let's say I'm at a restaurant and I'm ordering something, I already know about how much meat I could possibly eat. I'm not a vegan or a vegetarian. I am a meat eater. So I know how much a portion of meat for me would look like now.
Right.
versus, some people say, oh, it's the palm of your hand and all that. I know about how much meat I would eat, and I know that I would eat probably more vegetables than I would eat meat.
Heavy on that.
So that helps me figure out no matter where I am. And that's another one of his goals is no matter where you are in the world, you should be able to figure out what's good for you.
That's so empowering.
So
it takes away excuses of I can't do it because.
Right.
Right. I'm not in wherever. I don't have Oprah's chef. So
Right.
if I had Oprah's chef, I would have lost all that weight too when she was on her weight loss journey.
And there are some things you just figure out just going through life. Like one of mine was water. I had a hard time just drinking water.
Why was that?
But I found out for me, I needed a bigger bottle.
Okay.
If you gave me an 8-ounce bottle, 16-ounce, that just seemed like too much to get in all the water I was supposed to drink.
Okay.
But if I had a 24-ounce bottle or bigger, I would know I only need, a couple bottles or 3 bottles or 4 bottles versus saying 8 or 10 bottles.
Okay.
And so it helped me realize I could just drink a bottle of water at every meal.
Okay.
I would be fine.
Well, those are great tips. You've been talking about your successes. Was there any time where you felt like you had a misstep or I failed today? Did you ever have to
for sure.
come at that? Okay.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Because it's not a thing where you get into this and you do everything perfectly. And I tell even the coaches that I'm not going to do this perfectly, but I'm going to do it consistently. So one of the things that happened to me when I first got out was I thought I'll save my first cheater meal.
You'll save your cheater meal.
And till I'm going somewhere and I really want to use it. So it was going to be my god sister's birthday. She was going to the Cheesecake Factory.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I thought, I'll get cheesecake because I haven't had anything. Not a good idea because I looked it up before I left to see how many calories it was. And one slice of cheesecake there is 1,000 calories.
Okay.
So those kind of things like wake you up to,
You
are
empowered
you really
yourself with
going?
the information.
And it wasn't that I did not get the cheesecake, but I knew that wasn't something I was going to sit down and eat all at one time.
Okay.
Because I knew how many calories it was.
So to take a bite, so those friends that I have that are so disciplined and they get that cheesecake and like we got 6 spoons here, everybody gets a bite, then that's really
That's
what
the
we should
better
be
way.
doing. Yeah, that's a better way. That's a better way. That's empowering.
Yeah.
I'm glad you haven't had that much of a setback. I didn't know that you had the challenge of not going back with the picture. I really didn't know that was a call to action for everyone. That's impactful. Do you have any more? What's a common misconception? Because Dr. Joe's program is pretty regimented for some, and what are the most common hurdles that people are like, I can't do it because why? What are their excuses?
Most of it is people do not want to be held accountable. I mean, that is just the truth
Because
that we're
the
going
system
through
of
even right now.
accountability for this group is what do they have to do?
With this group, we have a private Facebook group, and then you have individual groups that you meet with so that you're in a smaller group.
Right.
And there's a coach there to help you, walk you through it.
Right.
But some people don't want to be held accountable. They don't want you to tell
They don't
them
want to be
that-
told what to do.
They don't want to be told what to do, or maybe that plate doesn't look like what it's supposed to look like.
This ain't the super size
So-
that I'm accustomed to.
And so they ask questions about different things that in the past, like the example he's given, that we often think that because someone is a vegetarian or a vegan, they're as healthy as a person. They're healthier than a person who eats meat. But that's not necessarily true because
some
if you're
big
eating the
cows.
same,
Cows is vegetarians and they're huge.
well, if you're eating the same things that cause inflammation, which everybody is, it has nothing to do with the meat or not eating the meat. It's the other stuff. So
What are some of the other things? Just give the people insight, bite size, just whet their appetite so they want to join in and maybe they can cut some of this stuff out.
Well, in general, it's like what most people tell you when you're on some type of diet is all the white stuff.
Okay.
The flour, the potatoes, the rice, all those kind of things. They can push you toward the inflammation without you even realizing it.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that it's not that the the doctors haven't had training, but maybe they haven't had enough training in nutrition in order to tell people.
Right.
Because when you go to the doctor, do they ever say you should stop eating a certain thing?
No.
They say you need to lose weight or maybe cut back on fat or sugar, but they don't really give you any concrete information, and that's what we get through this process is concrete information for you to help yourself.
Right. So can we empower our Just Keep Living family again with the information real slow on how they can get plugged into your weight loss journey accountability group? It's called?
The name of the whole process is called Journey Life TV.
Journey Life TV?
Yes, and that's the website, that's the name of the YouTube channel, the Facebook groups, all of those are under Journey Life TV. So that I would say get plugged in, or even on Instagram, and just watch the transformation. They always put the pictures of those of us who have where we started and where we are now. So you get to hear stories even on YouTube about what's going on. Even though everything else is private that I can't talk about, there are things that he talks about that you can listen to in a public forum.
And that will benefit you, because that's as much as I've done.
Yes.
And it's good. That's enough accountability.
Yes.
Because you've started this journey and now there's a new you, but there's some things that you've always done that were kind of under the radar that people didn't know about. So you've always done missions.
Yes.
And so do you find traveling easier now because of the new you?
I do, because when I get on the airplane now, not that I ever had to have an extender, but I don't think about being uncomfortable.
Okay.
Flying, 8 hours and 12 hours.
Right.
Before it was like, I hate to be in the middle seat because, it's going to be uncomfortable. But now it's something I don't even think about.
Right. And so we're going to segue into another one of the projects that you do that you're consistent with, and it's the sewing. People that don't know, Carla is also my seamstress. So she makes my clothes so that I can look wonderful consistently. And she has pivoted that sewing project. This also came out of COVID as well. So I think everybody put on weight during COVID.
Yes.
That was no exception for you. We've addressed that. And then you got involved with another project during COVID. So can you tell us about that? Segue us into that.
I think it was probably at the beginning of 2022, maybe. I was looking for a pattern for my niece. She was going to sew some doll clothes. And I found this podcast, and they were talking about being so powerful.
So S-E-W.
S-E-W, powerful. And so I listened to the podcast, and then it seemed interesting that they were making, which I have here, they were making these purses for girls in Zambia. And inside, we were making them here in the U.S.
Okay.
And then inside the purses, when they get to Zambia, there are seamstresses over there, and they make reusable pads for the girls.
Okay.
And the reason for all of this was really because the girls were missing school.
Missing school because of their cycle.
Because of their cycle.
Things we're not thinking about. You're going to go to school,
We're not even thinking about
put a pad in, wherever, in your tube socks.
Right. So they were staying at home, and they have this rule over there that if you don't pass like the 7th or 8th grade test, you don't get to go to high school. So they were trying to alleviate that 25% of the year these girls were missing school.
Okay.
So this was one of the first things that they did, this group, is they brought this in, trained the seamstresses, gave them a living wage.
Wow.
And then it allowed the girls to continue to go to school.
Looking to meet a need, address a problem, also created an economy and empowered them.
Yes.
Then you go there.
Yes.
You go there, and there's even more behind the scenes that they do.
Much
So it's
more.
not just around
Not just the
empowering
purse.
junior high school girls to get ahead of and have mastery over their cycles, but also they do so much more.
Yes. They have two other parts to what they do. One of them is, of course, they are sharing Christ with the students. And they're able to do that because it is considered a Christian country. And so they can go into the schools with no problem.
In Zambia.
In Zambia. So they have someone there in country who goes into the schools. And it's a native of Zambia who does this, and they go into the schools and talk to the kids. And then talk
to the kids about Christ?
About Christ.
Okay.
is very open to do
Right.
that, no problems.
Right.
So the other side of that is one of the problems they had is there's not enough food. There's still the problems of HIV.
I had no idea.
So while we're over here, and I've been seeing these commercials lately saying, here's our pill so that you won't even get it, well, they're dealing with the residual effects. So a person like me who may be single with no kids may have 7 kids in their household
Because
they're taking care of kids whose parents have passed away. Their sisters and brothers passed away, so now
somebody got to watch the
auntie
orphans.
has to take care of all of these kids. And so that's also how those women get help, is because there's some of those women who are now taking care of all these kids.
And they've been empowered to be seamstresses and make purses.
They make the purses, they make uniforms for the kids to go to school, because that's another thing that's required, is you have to have a uniform
Okay.
in order to have a school.
Right.
So they created their own school, then they were able to get fabrics to make uniforms. And then because of the food shortage, they were able to teach boys, because they were looking for something for boys to do. So they were able to teach boys how to build gardens. So now they go, if you go there now, you can go through the neighborhood. It's called the Nambe compound, like a neighborhood. And in yards, they have green vegetables growing, because in order to take those HIV medications, you still have to have nutritious food.
Right.
You can't just take the medicine and not
Right.
have that other piece. So they're teaching the boys. The boys are then teaching the families how to take care of the gardens, so they can continue to have green vegetables.
This is so fascinating to me, because I always assumed that the majority of the continent of Africa was still operating under agricultural normal culture. And so I don't understand, and maybe you can address it. We don't have to. It could be further research, how those skill sets that are ancient, how to garden, how to sew, that those skills get lost. Do you have any insight on like how that has happened?
Well, it's probably like here, we all moved to the city.
The desire.
Yes, and then we have the convenience of going to the store,
Convenience.
right?
Convenience ain't always healthy.
And so even now in America, we're trying to go back to gardening.
Right. It's a trend.
It seems like it's a trend, but with all these food deserts that we have, you know,
In the cities.
in the cities,
That they desire to go to.
yeah, because we have stores that don't come to certain neighborhoods. So now, you know, I can see even there, it's not that it's a lost art or anything. It's just that people, the convenience of going to the store, your little neighborhood market, you're buying there if you have money. But this way, they get to grow their own vegetables and fruits, and then just walk right over into the house, you know, and eat, you
Right.
know. And it's helping them, it's helping the kids. One of the probably saddest things that I had a chance to see there was the compound where we were working. They provide a lunch for the kids. The kids bring a Tupperware type container, and they fill it up with this like porridge. They eat a little bit, then they take it home to feed everybody else. So this same group, so powerful, has a huge garden. I mean, it's huge. It's in another location, but they grow fruits and vegetables there to bring back to Nambe, so that they can give them fruits and vegetables.
Wow.
So, you know, it doesn't happen all the time, but as they have built this garden up, then they're able
It's
to help.
multiplied. They are
Yes.
taking the call that God gave all of us, is to be
So they're
fruitful
doing
and
it on
multiply.
several levels, you know, in the neighborhood and outside the neighborhood, growing even more fruits and vegetables.
Right. So this SO project from We Are So Powerful,
Yes.
with the project that goes to Zambia, that could not have been the original call to action. Like, I mean, like, what was I love
The
how the original, like, I think I'm going to address this, and then it grows to minister to a whole population.
This actual book addresses it, but
Okay.
you know, and we all had to read it before we
Okay.
went on the trip.
Uh-huh.
But it started out that this couple went with a group. They were working for another mission type of organization, and something got canceled, and they said, "Do you have time to go visit this company? We would love for you to meet Miss Esther," which she's
Okay.
a wonderful, wonderful person. And she said, "Can you help us, please?" Like, we don't have a school, so we made our own school inside this church that's being built. They just, they had like, I think it was like 457 kids that they were just trying to create a school for these kids in their own neighborhood, mothers teaching, things like that. Kind of like the way we do homeschool.
Okay.
And they came back, prayed about it, and said, "What can we do?" And you and I have taken the class When Helping Hurts.
Oh, yes.
So they were all about not doing something that would hinder the people from helping themselves.
Wow.
So that's how all of this started developing is, where do we start? Okay, we start with the school, helping them with the school. So that's the purses came into being. And then
That will help them, and it's to help them help themselves. And it's
Exactly.
not about I'm the great answer, the missionary, the savior complex coming and you do what I say and
Exactly.
I will show you how to solve all your problems. No.
So once they asked them what is the need, and the need was for schooling, helping with schooling, then it was like, we need uniforms because that's what makes us a legitimate school in the eyes of the government. So then they taught the women learned how to sew the uniforms. So now the school has uniforms. And this is just one school in this this area. I've forgotten how big it is, but let's just say it's a mile square. If you can imagine having 80 schools,
Wow.
and they all have this many kids and more in this small area, and they're all trying to feed these kids, they're all trying to clothe these kids. That's kind of what it's like going to this particular area.
Wow. Wow.
So while I was there, I got a chance to go to the schools, meet the girls, actually hand them one of the bags. And probably the most excitement I saw, which to us would be strange, was they were screaming because they were getting 2 pair of underwear.
What? 2 pair of panties?
Yes.
Wow. Things we take for granted. I got to
Yes.
hope. Father, help us.
So we were excited for them to get the pads, but they were even more excited to get the underwear.
Simple, simple
Simple.
things. Father, help us.
Yes.
God bless America. Continue to, but let us open our
Yes.
eyes and see how truly blessed we are. That's enlightening. So, have you met your goal for you do things to raise your own funds to be empowered to be able to travel to serve? So, what does that look like for you this year? How many times have you gone to just this Zambia trip? I know you've gone other places.
This will, coming up in May, will be my second time going to Zambia. I've been to Kenya, Papua New Guinea, and South Africa, and Haiti, and Nigeria. But Zambia is where I'm going next, and I'll be leaving to go there in May.
Okay.
And it's just to go. We're going to be going. We're going to be taking more purses with us, and we're also going to be going to the different schools and seeing the girls passing out these bags to let them know that someone loves them, and we're representing the love of Christ to them. So they need to know that, hey, it's not just their own people, but there are others who are concerned about them. And that's just all over the world.
I'm concerned about you. That is so powerful, Carla. I'm always amazed at what you put your hand to and how involved the fruit that your consistency shows is really, it helps me. It's an influence to me to just be consistent. Whatever you have in your hand, you can do it. I eavesdropped on a conversation yesterday when I brought another new person into the group, and I'm like, I wasn't expecting to hear that, but we're going to talk about that today.
Okay.
Because it also goes with your new, I think it encompasses your new transform self. And so I know that psychologically, Dr. Joe Preps has conversation around people are going to view you differently now.
Yes.
And so just real talk, like you are a single woman, attractive, smart, financially independent, but you have found purpose outside the traditional marriage. And so talk to me about that. And I don't even know how that came up in conversation yesterday, but you guys had started talking about, I'm single, I don't have kids, and I have purpose. And I'm like, say more, Queen.
A few years back, and it has been a few years because I'm 62 now.
Okay.
And no, never been married. I don't have any kids. But I would say when I was probably in my late 30s, went to the doctor. The doctor was telling me that my body was already changing,
Okay.
going through perimenopause. And in my mind, I was devastated because I was like, oh, that probably means I'm not going to have kids. And she was like, oh, no, you can still have kids. She went on and on. But it was like something in me said no. And so my parents saw how I was feeling about all this, and they said, we're going to give you a couple of days to feel it, and then you got to get up and move on.
Oh, okay.
Because, you know, life is about more than just this.
Absolutely.
And so within a couple of years, I met a lady who told me she was going to Russia, and would I like to go on this trip to meet, you know, these people and talk about sewing. And I kind of flippantly said, are there any black people there? And she said, well, I'm going to come back. And when she came back, she said, what about Kenya? And I thought, I don't have a choice. I have to go now. And it was my first time going outside the country.
Oh, wow.
And that was in 2004.
Okay.
And so when I got there and we were working with an orphanage, I was greeted by all these kids. And it was just like my heart melted that, hey, you know, there are kids all over the place that need mothering. And so even here, you know, there are people that I consider my sons and daughters.
Right.
And so as I've been going on these trips, I've had a chance to go for different reasons. And one of the reasons I went was to talk to women. And during one of those trips, which is where this conversation came up, is it was like they would ask me to get up and do a testimony. And I was thinking, well, in my mind, I know what I want to say. I want to talk about my family. I want to talk about how I grew up. And it was like, no, that's not what I want you to talk. So I could hear the Holy Spirit saying, no, this is what you're going to say. And as I'm saying it, it's like I was outside of my body. I could see that my mouth was moving, but I couldn't believe what was coming out. And so as I talked about it, you know, being single, not having kids, and still being able to do things that were, had a purpose. After each time I would talk, I would have married women who would come up to me and say, thank you for talking about your life because, you know, I haven't had any children and I thought God couldn't use me.
Right.
And you're showing me that he can.
Wow.
So that had a very profound effect on me, just, you know, as a single person, because I was probably thinking,
Right.
you know, do I have any purpose?
Right.
And then to go over there and hear this from complete strangers was really, it was amazing. But it helped me to let go of some things that told me that I was useful, you know, there was nothing wrong with me, and that we all have different journeys, and that we don't need to, one way or the other, where you're married or you're not married, you don't need to get so caught up in if I don't have something,
Right.
or if I do have, you know, that makes me any less than anybody else, because you're not.
Right. Identity placed on another person, I think, is unhealthy. And this is the first time, you know, I'm a fan of the Robertsons anyway. So that mom and dad put that gauntlet out for you, like, okay, we're going to acknowledge that you got feelings around this. And because, you know, although I desire to have grandkids, I'm so amazed at how God can still provide that need in me get met outside of my own bloodline.
Yes.
And so you can still love someone just like, I don't even know how I would love my own because I love on some of these kids like they are my own grandkids. Like that need has gotten met for me. So to be able to go ahead and empower my own daughters to like, you can live a life full of joy, completeness, and satisfaction without being identified in a marriage relationship or being a mom or, you know, I can't be happy or joyful unless I have this. And so I'm so glad that you're speaking about that. And I think that needs to be talked about more and more because even in a marriage, you know, it's not, I don't even think it's godly. Before I say that, I'm like, look, Holy Spirit, help. Like our identity should only be in him, even in a marriage. Like once you realize that he fully loves, he fully sees, and he knows what we need, and that we're supposed to fulfill a purpose on this side of the veil of heaven is important. Yeah, so I'm just so grateful to always get to to chat with you. What's next? You have the Zambia trip, yes, but as you look at your annual calendar, then what else? What other projects are you going to be into this year, 2024?
Right now, and I don't think we really, other than you saying I'm a seamstress, a dressmaker or whatever, is at Dallas Designing Dreams, we have a lot of things going on in the studio. So we're preparing for new things that are coming with soap making and candle making. But our everyday job, I'm a sewing instructor. So I have private lessons for people in the studio. And then Arthur has private lessons for people who want to learn how to work with leather. But there's so many other things going on in that studio.
Soap making, candle making. What else is on the menu?
Drones, learning how
drone class.
Yeah, to get
Solid
your
Works.
certification.
I just had another young engineer reach out to me that was taking a Solid Works class that was offered in Dallas Designing Dreams. He's a student on the East Coast, but following up with him. So engineering programs.
Sublimation, heat press, embroidery, and video editing. There's just so many different things going on.
And healing happens as you put your hand to other things with that. The Lord has allowed the Holy Spirit to work through both of you so sweetly and gently to do surgeon's work, like just getting rid of the lies of the enemy that people have gotten involved with, like burrs. I grew up in the country, so running through a high field of weeds, you get burrs that are stuck to you. And you guys gently just empower us to take those things off and get free. So that's awesome. That is awesome. What else would you like our listeners to know? I want our listeners to know how can they get in touch with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can go to my website. Which is sewing, SEWING, for life.net. And that's just where all our classes are housed. But we're housed, but also DallasDesigningDreams.org is also our website for our studio.
Yeah.
So those are the two places where you can go and find us. And we're on social media in the same vein for Dallas Designing Dreams and Sewing for Life.
What is the greatest gift that someone has given you? Ooh. You do so much for others.
I think just giving me the opportunity to just be myself and not having an expectation that I have to be a certain way. Just, that I can move in this world and just be allowed to just be myself. Because, so many people put up facades of who they want to be or who they're, and I tell people all the time, I love being in our studio because it's my place of peace too. It's a place of peace for other people, but I can share with them when I go to work every day, I feel peace. I don't feel.
That's awesome.
When I hear people talking about what they don't like about their jobs, that's not me. Because I love what I do and I love to interact with the people that I get to interact with.
And I love coming in. I love feeling welcome there. So welcome, Just Keep Living family. We've invited you into our safe place, which also includes Dallas Designing Dream Studios at Southside on Lamar in Dallas, Texas. Thank you for spending time with myself and Carla Robertson. Do your own research. If you are moved to get involved with the We Are So Powerful project, if you can, but also just come and visit us. We enjoyed having you listening to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.